Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith, and Holly Blades. Good evening, Holly.
Evening, how are you doing?
Yes, very good. Good to see you. And as always, we're here to talk about the last 7 days at Newcastle United. Now, neither of us got to the game yesterday, which is quite a rare thing. So we have to rely, obviously, on Match of the Day and Sky for the footage. But as I said earlier on the show that I did with Mick Lowes, it looked as if Newcastle were the dominant force. It looked as if we played well. 20 shots on goal. Should have really been 3 or 4 goals up. Ultimately Watford got out of jail, but then could have nicked it at the end. But luckily, VAR was on our side for a change, and we got the benefit of the doubt, proving that maybe things do balance out over the season. But overall, I would say you're probably going to be more disappointed because that should have been 3 points, Ollie.
Definitely. I think it was definitely 2 points that we lost, which is a massive, massive shame, especially given the predicament that we're in. I did manage to watch the game, actually, obviously not in person, but I did watch it on the TV. And Sean Longstaff, I was gutted for him mainly because I think he's turned such a corner and he's such an important player now. He's got that goal, which was fantastic. Before that, he had 2 amazing chances that he unfortunately missed. One just wide, one over the bar. Got that goal, and then you're thinking, "Oh, this is brilliant." But you did start to panic considering we were going into half time and we only had a 1-0 lead, and then you start to think we really need to get a second. And unfortunately, we didn't get that second goal. Then Watford equalised, and I must be honest, I ended up just turning it off at that point because I had a feeling we were going to get beat. I couldn't see us getting back into the game. It's not a very Newcastle thing to do, especially lately. Then obviously I seen the notification that we'd went 2-1 down. I thought, brilliant, that's just great, exactly what we need. And then of course that goal thankfully got ruled off, which is a massive help for us, and thankfully we got that point, but again it should have been 3.
Yeah, should have been 3. You mentioned Longstaff. His form's definitely been improving because he's had a good run of games in the team, and what a goal that was.
Yeah, it has been improvement. It's great to see because we all knew that there was a player in there, and unfortunately he got that injury and he was never the same since that injury. It kept him out the side for quite a long time. He struggled to get back in. Now he is back into the side in a midfield that isn't the best, and slowly but surely his performances have been getting a lot better week in, week out, and then he's finally got that goal, which I think will massively help his confidence. And even though it didn't end up being the winning goal, I still think that'll give him a massive boost to confidence, and hopefully he can carry on the good form going into the next few games, because a local player who's came up through the academy, it's exactly what you want to see.
Yeah, it is. And bearing in mind that last season, he wasn't really in the flavour of the month, and obviously Matty certainly wasn't. But it's good. It's a sign of promise there, and from my perspective as well, looking at the Willock thing, we talked about it at the back end of the week. Stu Penman called it on Friday night. He said that he felt that Willock would play despite the boot, and his idea behind it wasn't a source. He hadn't heard anything from the club. He just thought that, looking back on Bruce's kidology, if you like, at other clubs, that this was something that he might have done, and he was proved to be right. And by all accounts, Willock had his best game of the season so far.
Yeah, I thought Willock did really, really well, which was bizarre because I was expecting him to be a little bit laggy and a little bit slower because I thought he'd be kind of playing through an injury and playing through some pain. But he was really, really fast. It didn't seem to affect him whatsoever. So to go from being ruled out of the game to then declaring himself fit and playing, it's quite a bizarre situation, to be honest, because there seemed to be nothing wrong with him. But thankfully he was fit because he made a big difference in that game, and he's certainly a player that's very important for us going forward.
Yeah, no, he definitely is. What did you make of the back four yesterday? I mean, obviously the change in formation was something that was forced upon him in the Leeds game. We were getting overrun. Things weren't working, square pegs in round holes. But obviously an injury to Lascelles, Fernandez and Clark came in. And Fernandez, looked like he'd never been away.
Yeah, I think Fernandez is definitely one of the unsung heroes in that side, because you go through, the past few years, and he's played practically every game up until he had that brief spell where he's out of the side, and he's always been phenomenal, really. He's always stepped up. Yes, you don't notice him because maybe he's not an excellent player, but he always does a great job in that centre-back role. And him with Clark is actually one of my favourite pairs at the club. I think they play really, really well together. So I thought that back four was really good. Again, Manquillo I thought was decent, and I'm happy to see him back in the side. I think it just works really well. So hats off to all of them, to be honest, because I think, again, that's something that we've highlighted throughout the season. The defence has been struggling, but for Fernandes to come back in and play like he did was really good, and I just hope that Fernandes stays in the side and he isn't plagued with any more injuries.
And Darlow, of course, I mean, we mentioned this last week, but, Woodman, young lad, still got a lot to learn. Maybe he could do with another season out on loan. Not his fault, put into the situation that he was. Team struggling to find their feet. Stupid goals conceded, 12 goals conceded in a few games. But ultimately, Darlow's come back in. There looks to be a little bit more confidence in the back four in front of him, and he pulled off a fantastic double save yesterday.
Yep. Absolutely fantastic again from Darlow. I think as soon as he's came back into the side, he's been good every game. And I wasn't expecting him to be as good as he has been, actually, because he was out for quite a while. I was expecting it to take a while for him to gradually build up fitness and momentum again. But straight from the offset, he's been great. And another good game where he did really, really well. So happy to have him back in the side. Like you said, it's a shame about Freddie Woodman. Maybe he needs another loan spell, which I think would be a good option. But Darlow has been great. And again, it's a healthy competition between Dubravka and Darlow. When he does manage to come back to full fitness, then I think those two will be fighting for that number one position.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look as if he's too far away, does it, from fitness? Dubravka, he's been pictured back in training, and that again is a positive for us.
It definitely is, because currently, if Darlow was to have another injury, God forbid, then Woodman would have to come back into the side, who I think we can all now agree probably isn't who you'd want as your number one in this current kind of climate, in this situation. So if Dubravka comes back to full fitness and you've got those two battling amongst themselves for that number one spot, then I think it's a really, really healthy competition and only can be a good thing. But it's going to be a hard choice of who to put in that number one, because I'm big fans of both of them, and Darlow's certainly growing on me a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we're spoiled with choice with goalkeepers, really. And I think if Woodman could get out on loan at some point, I think that would be massively beneficial. And I'm sure Woodman will come good. I just don't think it was probably his fault. I mean, looking, at the injuries that we've got, I mean, obviously Lascelles is out. Wilson, again, still out. Not sure whether he's going to be considered for a return next week against Wolves. But up front, apart from the finishing, there's a lot of attacking options. But they're not goal scorers, and that's where the problem lies. And I mean, I keep bashing on about this. Me and you've talked about this before as well. Bruce saying that we're okay up front. Well, clearly not, because we haven't got natural finishers.
I know this is the biggest issue that we have. ASM was really good. He got into some great positions. He had some great chances, but he just didn't have that final product. It's always the case with ASM where he takes one too many touches, he takes a second too long, and unfortunately in football, you take even half a second too long and then it gets rid of your chance, because defenders are so quick to come in and kind of clear the danger. So it was unfortunate that he did miss that chance. He tried to pass the ball to Sean Longstaff, who again missed a sitter, but you can't criticise him because he did have a good game, of course. Joe Linton, I thought, was very poor. Didn't really notice him, to be honest. He just kind of was like the forgotten man in that game, in my opinion. Dwight Gale, I think I would love to have seen him come on early in the game, if not starting, because I think currently he's the best chance we've got of scoring goals. He's the only natural number 9, the only natural finisher. Yes, he might not be Premier League quality, but he's still going to have more of a chance than Joe Linton. But yet again, it comes back to the thing we've said for the past 2 years. When Wilson's injured, we just have a massive, massive issue. And unfortunately, I think it's been proven now that we can't rely on Callum Wilson because he just picks up so many injuries.
Yeah, I mean, it was the same at Bournemouth as well. We knew what was happening when we bought him, and, we've gone ahead with it anyway. Great signing, but not reliable, and hence the reason why we do really need somebody else brought in. We needed somebody brought in the summer. We needed somebody brought in last January. We needed somebody brought in when we brought Callum Wilson in. So, ultimately, it's not something which we as fans haven't realised. It's clearly something that the owner doesn't feel is important, clearly feels that ASM, etc., are more than enough to get us through this season. Mick Lowes today on the show, which you can catch on the playlist, said he felt that Steve Bruce, when rolled the dice yesterday, he felt he went away from his usual defensive tactics and went for it. That's why Newcastle basically had 20 shots on goal. That's why Newcastle had so many opportunities to win the game. And I thought when I saw Brucey interviewed, certainly on Match of the Day, and I mean, you'll get a chance to watch this back. It's on BBC iPlayer. The interviewer says, "Are you okay?" It's a weird question to ask somebody. Are you okay after that? And he looked gaunt. He looked pale. He looked as if he was in the last chance saloon, to be honest. And Mick Lowes reckons he is. He personally feels that anything other than a win next week, and he thinks Bruce could lose his job.
I think he's got to. Yeah, I think he's got to, because we might bring someone in who's no better than Bruce, or, you know, who's on the same level as him. But at the end of the day, we can't do any worse, because we're 17th in the league now, but we haven't won a game within 6 games into the competition, and we're just not doing well. We've got a squad there that's far more capable of doing than what we're currently doing. You know, we should be probably in and around 12th place, I think, with the squad that we have. I think the players we've got is good enough to do that. So I think Steve Bruce, unfortunately, it's not going to happen. I don't think he's got it within him, and I don't think he's capable of getting us to climb up the league. So you've got to bring in a replacement, otherwise we will go down. And I really do think this is the year that it'll happen, if we don't bring in a new manager, and also if we don't strengthen in January, because I think signings do need to be made in January. I think that's got to be priority.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be. They need to spend some money, otherwise, you know, as I said, Mike Ashley's rolling the dice, and that is something which he's done, you know, for years. Just hopefully, you know, he can keep us up. All right, look, we'll take some questions. That's enough of the game. I'm sure plenty of people have got things to say in the chat. Tom says, "What's your thoughts on Joe Willock? When Bruce said he won't be playing in the press conference, then he played, but he was declared unfit." Do you think that was a bit of kidology from Steve Bruce, or do you think that Willock has turned around and said, "Look, I want to play"?
I think it was probably Willock that said he wanted to play, because I think the club probably did believe that he was injured. Of course, he had that boot on and things wasn't like really looking very good. It was a bit of a worry. But it was kind of a weird situation, like I said earlier, because when he did play, he didn't seem to be holding an injury whatsoever. He didn't seem to be playing through pain or anything, because he was so quick. His running wasn't affected whatsoever. So I really don't, you know, see what the issue was. But I think it was a case of Joe Willock wanting to step up and play, because he hasn't hit the ground running like he did last season, and that's not a criticism of him, because I think it was a big ask. He had a lot of pressure on his head, on his shoulders, going into this season. He was the only signing. We'd spent a lot of money on him, and I think a lot of fans expected him to, you know, come in and score the goals like he did last season, and he hasn't done that. So I think he'll want to keep playing games. He'll want to try and get back into that good form and prove to the fans and the club, listen, this is why you signed us, and make a name for himself within the side.
Yeah, okay. William says, "Hi, Holly. Hope we all get good news on Wednesday for our club." Of course, William is referring to the cat case, and we will be doing a cat case special on Wednesday night at 6:00. Yeah, it's a big week, and takeover talk's been put on the back burner, certainly by everybody at NUFC Matters. It has cropped up once or twice on the Liam show, but we haven't really talked about it because there's nothing to talk about. And Wednesday, of course, will be the hearing, which you know, we would hope goes in Newcastle's favour. We get a date for the cat case, and things possibly could progress quite quickly after that, you would hope.
You would hope so. I certainly hope it does go in our favour, but regardless, you're just thinking, thankfully, we're going to have an answer. We're going to have some sort of resolution to this ongoing saga, because I think once you have that case hearing, you'll probably know which way it's going to go. Of course, if it's delayed until the new year, then I think most people will be of the opinion that it's probably not going to happen and we need to move on. Of course, if it does go our way, then you'll be thinking, let's hope the takeover can go through as soon as possible, so we're not in the absolute mess that we are currently. But it's certainly something I'll be watching live. I know a lot of people will be, and with a lot of interest. I've tried to keep it out of my mind as much as possible, and the stories that constantly come out in the media, and you're thinking, oh, should I have a read? Should I click on it? And you're trying to keep it out of your mind. But I've just literally been trying to ignore everything, because I just think there's no point in thinking about it until we have this cat case hearing.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I feel exactly the same as I have for the last couple of months. I still feel that this will still play out in some way, shape or form over the next couple of weeks. I think we get a decision on Wednesday that will dictate, whether the Saudi takeover still got a chance. And my mindset has been like that for the last couple of months. Let's see. It'll be interesting. We don't have a crystal ball. All I can say is that, on the buyer side, the buyer who's been there, since 2017, this is a pivotal week for them, I think. So let's see what happens. Andrew says, Stu Penman must know something, as he said he thought Willock would play. Look, a good guess, I think, in a lot of ways. He does his homework, Stu. He knows the situation. He's seeing what Bruce has done at past clubs, and it was a good shout. It was certainly a good shout. And I think we got 2 out of 2, because I'm sure somebody called the 1-1 draw. Might have been Keith Patterson. Certainly either Gibbo or Malcolm did as well. Tom Lynch says, evening, Stephen Holly. Loads of chances missed, but for me, ultimately, it's bad management and training. Brucey the Clown has to take responsibility. Again, a lot of people are not happy with Steve Bruce. Is that down to Steve Bruce? He's picked the team. He's given them directions, but if they can't finish their dinner, then is that Steve Bruce's fault?
No, I don't think the blame did lie with Steve Bruce for that Watford game, actually. I think there's certainly things I would have done differently, but then again, who wouldn't? Everyone's going to have a slightly different opinion about how to set that team up, and it's Steve Bruce's choice. Ultimately, he's went ahead with what he thought was right to do. The team was all right. It was a decent team, and they played well, but unfortunately, we just didn't finish those chances. Like you said, we had so many chances that we couldn't put to bed, and that's just because we don't have an out-and-out goal striker that is, a goal scorer, that's in the side currently without Wilson there.
Yeah, that's true. We were unlucky. We should have put it to bed, says Jimmy. Yes, Derek, shout out to Paul at Toon Review. Hope his daughter gets well soon. Yeah, horrendous situation, which Paul has been through this week. As if he has had enough on his plate this week. But yeah, thoughts with Paul this week. Hope your daughter is okay. Matty Kelly says, a new bar is opening next to me. That's more interesting than our club at the minute. Must be a good bar, Matty. You have to let us know which one. Darren Cowan, Longstaff and Willock were fantastic. I can't say about Miggy. Once again, I thought he was poor. Still plays about in the defence. Thoughts on Miggy? I mean, he's a bit of a live wire. He's got the pace, and he gets forward and gets into positions. But is Darren's opinion right, do you think?
I don't think he was horrendous, but I certainly don't think it was one of his best games. However, I thought the game before that, and in the past few games, I thought he's been really, really good. So you can let him off having one slightly off game, but I still thought he brought something to that team, and I certainly didn't think we had anyone better on the bench to come in and replace him.
Yeah, I mean, look, I like Miggy. I just think, unfortunately, I hate using the expression, but I do think he's been bruised a little bit. He was probably at the best form when Rafa was here, and he was playing with Rondon and Perez. They made a really good 3 and utilised in the best position possible. I just want to ask you about Joe Linton. We had a comment on the Mick Lowe show earlier on. J7 he was referred to, by the way, by somebody. I can't remember who it was in the chat. It's not quite like C7, is it? But anyway, J7 is improving was the tone of the message. And that we might have a player in there. Now, this isn't the first time I've heard this. Is J7 going to be a player, Holly?
No, it's never going to happen. And I'm sad to say that, because, I'd love to see him do well. But how many seasons has it been now? 3 seasons or something, and we're still waiting for the player to come out. It's not going to happen. The player isn't going to come out. I don't think he's well suited to the Premier League, and he's a bang average winger, to be honest. He's a bang average winger. A 5 out of 10 player, someone you think, oh, well, he can do a job coming off the bench or whatever if we need someone to fill in. Certainly not someone that should be starting, and certainly not a striker.
Yeah, it's always going to be a bone of contention. Like I said to Mick the day, if you take away the £40 million price tag and park it, he's okay. Somebody compared it to Shola today, and then Mick Lowes was defending Shola. He was saying, God, don't compare him to Shola. But I guess there's probably worse centre-forwards. We've talked about a few over the years. Frank Pingle, God bless him. Rob McDonald, I've had him on the show. Wasn't everyone's favourite choice. Andreas Anderson, Stefan Givosh, John Dahl Tomlinson, who went on to win the Champions League, of course. But he wasn't a centre-forward. He was more of a number 10. But was played out of position when Shearer got injured at Everton. So there has been some poor ones over the years. Bobby Shinton, maybe.
Put it this way, I'd rather have Hosselu back.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. So, I mean, what do you people think in the chat? Is there a player in Joe Linton? Should he be called J7? Will that help him? Rachel Lilly says, from what I saw on Match of the Day and the reports, we should have put the game to bed in the first half. I hope your rehearsals are going well, Rachel, by the way. I hope they're going well. And when we're going to get the details of this show so we can come along and give you some support. Paul says, not going to get carried away with Longstaff. His passing is still wayward and needs to add goals to his game. Got a good one yesterday, Paul. And you were missed on Twitter. Somebody missed you on Twitter, Paul, the other day. Somebody was saying, where is Paul Oxley? Is he okay? I can now report you are alive and well and living in the chat of NUFC Matters. Tony says, I hope you're not going to kiss that big wrong'un's ass tomorrow, Steve. Speak the truth and defend yourself, bud. Be the voice for all his victims. Tony, I'm going on to a chat tomorrow with Decker Heggie at 8 o'clock. I am the guest. He is the interviewer. And let's see what happens. I am sick of all this politics online. I really am. I'm sick of web wars, podcast wars, all of that rubbish. I don't come on here to do that. I actually prefer coming on and talking about Newcastle and inviting some rather interesting guests on the show. And that's what I do. Some people won't like what the guests say. It's not my fault. But, I try to be fair. I try to give a balanced interview. I did one with David Icke. That's not everyone's cup of tea. It's had probably the most views on the channel. But I kept him to talk about football. I didn't want him to talk about aliens and why people shouldn't do this and why people shouldn't do that. I got him on to talk about his days at Hereford. He was the reserve keeper when Hereford beat Newcastle in the FA Cup. So, Decker Heggie will take it in the direction he wants tomorrow. Let's see. But for me, there is no internet wars. And I have noticed, obviously, on our NUFC Matters videos, we get a few dislikes, and it's trolls, which really, come from these other videos that I do. And it's unfortunate because I've got the channel set up as NUFC Matters and predominantly Newcastle stuff. And it's unfortunate that there's a little crossover. So, I won't be giving anybody anything tomorrow, other than facts and other than the truth. And I'm pleased to say that I've spoken to a couple of people who've been able to give me a little bit of truth today. So, yeah, All or Nothing podcast tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, Decker Heggie's channel. Tune in. Should be very interesting. Mashup Beats, Troll of the Weeks on a Friday. I'm not a snake. Blocked from the channel now, by the way. Hit the likes button, as Tom says. That's more like it, Tom. Be encouraging. Be positive, mate. Okay, Rachel says, are you encouraged by the performances in the last couple of games? Holly is shaking her head.
I am shaking my head because this is what I'm sick of hearing constantly. You've got Steve Bruce saying it and now the players saying it, who's clearly being told by Steve Bruce to say this. Take the positives and things like this. I mean, I'm sorry, but it could have been worse. Yeah, we could have got beat, take the positives, whatever. But we can't be positive when we were sitting 19th in the league up until yesterday. Now we're 17th. Isn't much better. We'll probably drop back down once we get beat in the next few games, which I'm expecting. We can't score goals. We can't pick up 3 points, and we need to win, and it's not happening. And I can't see where the next win's going to come from. So am I encouraged? No, I think we're in a massive relegation battle, and I'm not taking the positives from the games because I think until we start getting wins and 3 points, I'm not going to be happy. I mean, are you of the same opinion?
Have I been encouraged? There are halves of games where I've been encouraged. Man United first half, going down there, Ronaldo and all of those big name stars, one of the most expensive squads in Man United's history, it's got to be. And we held them for 40 minutes. It wasn't pretty, but we defended and we defended and we defended and we kept them out. And had it not been for that stroke of good luck that they got, who knows what would have happened. Leeds United, awful one half, changed the formation, better the second half. And it was, I don't know, there is green shoots of promise in this team. It's nothing to do with Steve Bruce. It's more to do with Graham Jones, I would say. But it's also down to players. There is life in these players. They don't like getting beaten. They want to win. And, they're not... This isn't the same as the relegation teams that we've seen in the past. In more recent times, the Viduka relegation team, I always call it. Alan Smith, Mark Viduka, Stephen Taylor, Harps and all of them. That was an awful season. Do you know what I mean? And there was a few mercenaries in that team. Damien Duff, I think if I remember rightly, but there was a few mercenaries. You still get the impression that these lads want to play for the club. Murphy runs his balls off. J7's the same. He's great. He's not a great player, but he does his best. See, I refer to him as J7 just to get a bite. Almiron, not great, but again, he grafts. Richie, I know not your favourite player, certainly still mine, but again, his legs are going, but he still gives 100%. Lascelles, not the most technically gifted guy, but clearly still captain because he does something in the dressing room. So, and Longstaff, he's a Geordie lad. He wants to play. Paul Dummett, if he ever gets a chance again, is another one. He plays with his heart on his sleeve. He's a local lad. We've got players that care. That gets you something. So, am I encouraged by the performances? I'd probably say no. If you had to say yes or no, I'd say no. But there's green shoots of life, I would say, Rachel. So I hope that answers your question. There's some positivity somewhere. We're not rock bottom, but we need 3 points at Wolves next week. Paul says, when we get Dubravka back and Wilson, we will kill teams off. If Wilson had Murphy's chance yesterday or ASM's chance, we would have won comfortably yesterday. Yeah, it gets back to what we were saying earlier, Holly, doesn't it? We haven't got the cover when Wilson's injured. And if he's injured, we're left with midfielders to do a striker's job.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem. And I do agree with what Paul Oxley said there. But again, it's a lot of pressure for Wilson coming back into the side after an injury and you expect him to hit the ground running and score goals straight away. That's a lot to ask.
Yeah, it's just it is ridiculous. It really is. This position that we find ourselves in. That's down to Ashley. Hopefully, Bruce will not mess around. Keep Dubravka out the side like last season when Darlow needed dropping. Dubravka is number one without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah, we're back to that again, aren't we? But Darlow's put in some pretty good performances again, and will it be unfair to drop him when Dubravka's fit, or would you just say yes, let's go for it?
I think it would be unfair to drop him straight away, and especially putting Dubravka straight back in. I think it's a bit of a rush, a bit of a rash decision to kind of make. I'd definitely be willing to stick with Darlow, and then again, if he does start to drop off and his performances aren't as good, bring Dubravka back in. Dubravka for me is still my favourite, but Darlow's getting a lot better, and he's been fantastic lately.
Yeah, Darren counters. I think the way Spurs are playing, there could be 2 new managers in before the Spurs game. I'll just double check on that scoreline because I was watching that game before we came on air. It's 3-1 now. So Arsenal were 3-0 up at half time. Spurs have managed to pull one back in the earlier game today as well. Wolves won against Southampton away 1-0, which is not a great sign for us going there, to be honest. But thanks for that, Darren. Wolves is another hard game. I'd take a draw now. Nobody at the bottom is pulling away. Any team would miss the main striker and goalkeeper. We've got to judge him when he gets to Dubravka, Shelvey and Wilson back. Yeah, Shelvey, another name which has been missing conspicuous by his absence. Graham Nichols says, a halfway decent striker will cost over £10 million, and I can't see us getting that for Woodman. And going by the summer window, I can't see anything being made available in January. Would you cash in on Woodman, or would you sell a player to try and get a striker in? Do you think that's something which Newcastle would consider?
Yeah, and if that's what it took, then I'd be more than happy to get rid of a player. And Woodman, I'd be willing to sell him. If we could get the 10 million, then I'd go for it and bring in a striker, because I think we've got enough goalkeepers and we need a striker. So it makes sense.
Tom says, if we get bid off Wolves next week, do you think Bruce will be gone? It'll probably be ideal to get a new manager in place just before the international break. I mean, do you think this is going to happen?
Well, again, I would never say 100% I'm confident that he's going to go, because you can't really predict what the club's going to do. They're very kind of uncertain and you just don't know how they're thinking. But I think if we get beat off Wolves, or even if we've got a draw, I think Ashley will be starting to at least think we need to bring in a replacement. And it would be a good time with international break to bring in a new manager. So I could see it happening. But again, if we didn't, then I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, Paul says, I've just looked at the fixtures, and unless we don't start scoring goals, I can see us with under 15 points by Christmas, but I hope I'm wrong. That Christmas period's a nightmare, isn't it? I mean, I think if every Geordie asked for, 6 points over Christmas, I think we'd all be happy, but it doesn't look good, does it? Man United, Man City, Leicester, Everton, Liverpool, it's just horrendous, isn't it? The teams that we end up playing in December, I think it's the fixture computer has just not been kind to us at all.
Nah, it hasn't. We've got pretty much all of the top 6 sides to play. It's just a nightmare. And if we haven't got many points and the team morale and confidence is low, then you're just thinking this is going to be horrendous going into the second half of the season.
Proverbial 6-pointer on the 1st of December, Norwich at home, Burnley at home, then on the 4th of December, another 6-pointer. So there's your two 6 points. Then we've got Leicester away on the 13th, Liverpool away on the 15th, Man City at home on the 18th, Man United at home on the 26th, Everton away on the 28th, and New Year's Day, Southampton away. I mean, that's just just cruel. It really is. It's brutal, in fact. Apart from that corner he gave away, I thought Miggy was a machine yesterday. I love his defensive work. It's funny how everybody sees a different game in players. Big thank you to Spider VPN, one of our main sponsors. Google Spider VPN. They come up at the top of the search list for all your internet safety. They will protect your computer, protect your passwords and your photographs. Google Spider VPN now. And skipsandbins.com, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website www.skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. And to L&G Family Funeral Directors 01913897245, and to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle. Thanks to John at Jab Signature for making the flyers. If you're a first-time visitor to the channel, click subscribe by hitting the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner. Hit the thumb up to like the channel, click share to share the video to your other social media, and drop into the comments box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans or to post a question on today's show. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes and Spotify and other podcast providers. And don't forget as well, we do have our website, NUFCmatters.com website, $29.99 for the black and white shirt. We've got a vast amount of T-shirts on there. The London Calling T-shirt with Rob Lee and Les Ferdinand on. Over the wall Ryan Taylor T-shirts are also quite popular. So get yourself on NUFCmatters.com. There's mugs and all sorts on there. And with Christmas coming, you could make somebody very happy. And we also have some events coming up with Newcastle Legends. Friday the 29th of October, we have an evening with Gavin Peacock where Gavin will be bringing books to sell. His new book. Again, another Christmas idea for you there. Tickets for that are £15 and is at the Tyneside Irish Centre. We also have our delayed Christmas do from last year with Gibbo and Supermac doing a talk-in. That is on the 19th of November at the Tyneside Irish Centre as well. And we also have on the 26th of November an evening with Peter Beardsley. And that again, tickets for that are £15. £15 for that, £12 for the Christmas do with the proceeds going to the food bank. And £15 with the Gavin Peacock event. So NewcastleLegends.com, click shop, and you will be able to buy your tickets for those events there. So plenty coming up over the next couple of months, and looking forward to that. Okay, back to the questions. And I thought Darlow was positive in goal, says Donald Baines. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. Certainly was. Belly, thank you for becoming a YouTube member. I always forget about that. From our perspective, if you want to become a member and support us a little bit, please do. Just click member on the YouTube page and join everybody. That's everybody who's got a little symbol next to them. That's why they've got it in the chat. A lot of people are asking the question. Very rarely ask people to do that. But if you want to, that is good. J7 is causing a right stir. Where do you think J7 can go to play well? Not the Alphabet League. It's closed down now.
I don't think anywhere in the Premier League. I don't think you do well. I think you need to go back abroad.
I want a J7 t-shirt. I want a J7 t-shirt, John, to wear on the show. There you go. That's your task for tonight, John from QTech. Instead of doing horror t-shirts, which cause absolute storms on social media and ruin my night when I get back in.
The question is, what caused more of a stir, brown ale or these t-shirts?
Bloody t-shirts. Horror. He's doing them for Halloween. I come in, I don't have any signal all night, and then I get a load of grief when I get in. It's nothing to do with me, as usual. Keith Patterson, how are you both? Great to see you doing what you do best. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Keith.
Thanks, Keith.
Dunnell says, no, not J7. Rehearsals are going well, says Rachel. Is it pantomime? Because if it is, I'm going to say, oh, no, they're not. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what play you're doing, Rachel. I'm sure you told us before. Let us know. Let us know on Twitter. Maybe he's not on the public platform. Let us know on Twitter. Inbox us and let us know. And if we can get along to support you, we will. If you want us to, that is. Gary says, if Joe Linton had been a number 20, he could have been known as J2O. Then he would have been juiced.
Mint.
I love it. J2O. Yes, very good. Tom Lynch says, Joe Linton has as much chance of making it with NUFC as Anthony Joshua has of beating Tyson Fury. Are you a boxing fan, Holly? Never asked you that.
Yeah, I am actually. I mean, I'm not like a massive boxing fan as much as football, but I do watch it, and I did watch the fight last night. It was a good fight. You know, I think both of them can hold their heads up high. I thought people were quite harsh on Joshua. I mean, yes, he did get beaten fairly, and, you know, Usyk was a lot better. But he well deserved it. I mean, every round he got back up and he didn't look fatigued whatsoever. He was straight ready for the next round. Whereas Joshua, I think certainly by about round 9 or 10, he just looked absolutely knackered. It was just too physical for him.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I look at some of the stuff that we've seen this season, and there has been two. I think you're right. Too physical is the word, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Definitely. Andrew Ward says, "Hi, Stephen Ollie. When the CAC case is won on Wednesday, will that remove the hurdles and make the takeover happen? What's your gut instinct?" I've told people mine.
I think that it will go in our favour. And of course, I want it to go in our favour, but I'm actually confident that it will. I think the fact that the public are going to be able to listen in on it helps us a lot. And I certainly think that we wouldn't have fought so hard to get this CAT case hearing if we weren't confident of it going through. And I think we've got a good legal team behind us that's given us a lot of confidence. But I've been a lot more confident throughout the whole thing as of late than you have, because you've been of the opinion like it's off or whatever. I've always had a little bit of confidence. Granted, that confidence is a lot less than it was maybe a few months ago, but I still have always believed that I think we can eventually get this over the line.
Yeah, a few people. Tom Lynch, I've just uploaded a Wilder Fury video, says Funko. I enjoyed that fight last night. Some people saying it was rubbish, it was hopeless. I enjoyed it. I really did. Fair play to Usyk, like what a result that was. Full time, Arsenal 3, Spurs 1. Thank you, Darren. Andrew says, "I thought we were decent yesterday. We just need a finisher." Yeah, we've got one. He's just pretty injured. That's the problem, isn't it? Will there be a result on Wednesday? Says Jacob. No. Well, there'll be a result of some sort, because ultimately we will find out whether the CAT case can go ahead. That's what Wednesday is about. This isn't the CAT case. This is just we'll find out whether the CAT case can go ahead. That's my understanding of it anyway. So let's see what happens. Tom says, "Holly, what's your thoughts on the TV broadcast games and no trains to get to the games? What is the Premier League playing at?"
Again, it just shows the lack of consideration and care that they have for the fans. Money's their priority. The fans are at the bottom of the pile in terms of what they think's important and what's not. It's a disgrace, to be honest with you. I think all the fans need to come together of all the clubs to take a stand against it, because the game's being taken from the people and just being controlled by a bunch of people who probably don't care less about the sport, are just more interested in being rich and wealthy businessmen. And that's never what football should have been. It's a disgrace, to be honest with you. The likes of Arsenal have changed that. Arsenal away to a 12:30 kickoff. Newcastle fans travelling like 300 miles or whatever from Newcastle down to London. It's just a disgrace, the lack of consideration that they've had for that. Tom
also says, "What's your thoughts on Richie? Do you think he's happy playing where he's playing, or do you think he wants to play in his favourite position?"
I think Richie's probably at a point in his career now where he'll be happy to be getting game time, because I think there's a lot of Premier League clubs where he probably wouldn't get that game time, and I think he does deserve it. He tries very hard. He's not the player that he was a few years ago, in my opinion, but I still think he's definitely a hard worker. Of course, he'd prefer to play in his natural position, but I think he does well in more of a defensive role when he's needed to be, and I think he'll be just happy to play games.
John says, "Watched the 90 minutes live yesterday and should have been 3 up at half time. Wilson and Dubravka back. We'll do okay if he plays 4 at the back." Paul says he's having time out from social media. I don't blame you, mate. It's a cesspit, Twitter in particular. Pass that on if you can. 4 weeks now. No plans of coming back for a while yet. Newcastle win 3 games in a row and might come back earlier. Wow. See you next year, mate. He says, "I thought Wolves defended brilliantly today. They will take some scoring against next week. Cheers for that great news." In fairness, ASM and Murphy made 2 simple basic finishes. The game would have been out of reach. Yeah, I agree. I mean, God, that Murphy one, he'll replay that in his mind time and time again. He should have buried it. And ASM as well squared that one to Longstaff, who scored a great goal yesterday, but also missed an absolute sitter. Dan says, "To be fair, the players were fighting for every ball yesterday and were up for it. The worry is they're playing well and not winning. Wilson would have scored a hat-trick yesterday." Again, that's how I saw it. I really do think that's the case. We had better possession as well. Even Bruce Willis, that's Keith Patterson's new nickname, isn't it? Darren says, put another manager in charge of Newcastle, Lampard or Howe, then this team will get results and climb the table. Well, that's what we're hoping for. I think in the break that there is going to be some kinds of some kind of decision. Tom says, green shoots at NUFC, yes, but Steve Bruce is a kind of weed killer.
He's not wrong.
Tom's flying tonight, isn't he? Alan Thompson says, Ollie and Steve, it's the first time 55 years that 5 teams that not won in the first 6 games, so we're not the only fans feeling down. Don't forget, everyone. We're the first team to go to do it 6 times or not get a win in the first 6 games. I think that was the stat that was rolled out today.
Not the best stat at all.
No, definitely not. Carl says, let's face it, yes, we deserved 3 points yesterday. Steve Bruce spoke the truth in his post-match also. What I can't accept is him claiming that we played well in games when we've deserved nothing. True, he does do that on occasions, but I mean, he was fairly honest, but I think he did look like a rabbit in the headlights yesterday.
Yeah, Steve Bruce, I try not to listen to his post-match and pre-match kind of conferences and stuff because, to be honest, it just annoys us and it makes us feel more negative than I did before, so I just tend to ignore them. But I think a lot of the time he does try to make us see the positives, which is something that it keeps going on and on and on throughout this season, but it doesn't work and he does sugarcoat a lot of things, but I do think we tried yesterday.
2 of the bottom 3 after 6 games last season were relegated, along with West Brom, who are in 17th. Unless something changes, we are in real trouble, says Dean. Gary's asking, is there anything on tomorrow night? Yes. Sunday night, obviously fixtures pending, is going to be the new night for me and Holly. And on Monday nights, the 5-minute rant will be your fix of NUFC matters, but it will be at the usual time, around about 7:30. It's difficult for Pete and that to get in from work, I think, and with child responsibilities, etc. 7:30 suits them. So 7:30 till 8:30. It will be the 5-minute rant on Monday. Gary says as well, have you ever thought of sending Charles an over-the-wall t-shirt? Charlie Salvador, of course. No, but maybe he would like that. So I will possibly send that in. Dino says, it's 100% Bruce's fault. No striker and not making changes when needed to affect the game. It's his and Ashley's fault. J7 to Celtic, says Dunno.
It's interesting. He might make it in the Scottish League, actually.
It's catching on, this J7. J7 is on the way to you, mate. Thank you, John. I'm getting a J7 t-shirt. You see, I love that. You ask for one and he gets it done, even when he's been ill. TF mashes AJ all day long, i.e. Tyson Fury. Joe, you're not wrong, mate. I don't think that fight will happen, though, for a while. Dino says he took Miggy off at a time when he was getting more involved and causing problems, yet he kept Joe Linton on, which is true. Okay, life goals, Holly. Says, would you like to see Elliot Anderson start versus Wolves, or did Sean and Willock justify their selection?
That's a really good question, actually. I think Sean and Willock both played really well. And I think they're 2 players that will probably stay in the side, certainly if they keep up the performances that they've been playing lately. But Anderson is a player that I think is decent. In pre-season, I thought he played really well. He's certainly someone that I think can have a future at the club. I would love to see him given a run out, to be honest, at some point. Maybe not at Wolves, especially because I think it's such an important game that you don't want to mix about with the side too much and bring new players in. But even in maybe the FA Cup in January kind of time, or if we've got another injury or whatever the situation is, then bring him in. But I certainly would love to see him given a chance.
Yeah, okay. Along with J7. Do you think Anthony Joshua will want a rematch? Apparently it's in the contract, Tom. That's the crack. However, when Usyk was interviewed, I always laugh at these interviews where there's an interpreter, by the way, because they could be saying anything. I know that from experience, having worked with Tino before, and he laughs, and you know for a fact he's probably just calling me a bald, etc. And that is, he's clearly not answering the question. And then the interpreter goes, yes, he was really happy when he scored his 3rd goal against Barcelona. But yeah, he said he's not thinking of a rematch anytime soon because he wants to spend time with his family. So really, AJ is on the outside looking in. I really don't know what's going to happen there. And my fear was that fight would get put back until AJ and Fury fight each other at a point when neither of them are at their best. So very rarely do these big fights happen when you want them to. Arsenal fan says, life is good. Yeah, congratulations. Good result. Played very well in that first half. I'd almost forgotten Aubameyang played for Arsenal because he was never off the score sheet, but rarely scores. And they played well today. Paul says Shola scored more goals against Sunderland than Joe Linton has had 2 goals in 3 seasons. J7, Paul, J7, come on, son. Belly says, I think the cat case will go against Newcastle and the Premier League will get their way. Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of people feel like that. And why should we feel any different? It's been one disappointment after another. Dunnell says, fans should come first. Fans are major stakeholders in any club. It doesn't work like that anymore, unfortunately. Martin says, don't think there'll be a result on Wednesday the way the EPL work. It'll get adjourned again and moved to a later date. Again, that's just not what people want to hear, but what people feel will happen. Alan says, Holly, I think we'll win, but we all know the Premier League will delay it for months and we will desperately be disappointed. We'll be desperately disappointed again.
That's almost how I feel as well. I think if we were given the fair hearing, I think we'd definitely go our way, but it's just the corruption and the delaying tactics of the Premier League that's stopping us from going ahead.
Yeah, Paul Oxley says if I said J7 scoring 3 games in a row, I'd never be back. It's possible he could end up on the penalties. Keir Patterson said, I'd be amazed if cat case is thrown out on a jurisdiction challenge. It is completely different legal aspect than the arbitration, which concerns the ODT. Cat determines illegal behaviour. Again, this show on Wednesday night, 6 o'clock, will be very enlightening, I think. Was Mike Ashley at yesterday's game or not? I don't think so. Ant and Deck were there.
Yeah, I saw Ant and Deck. I didn't hear anything about Mike Ashley.
Yeah, lots of sightings of Mike Ashley over the last 7 days. But certainly not at the match, I don't think. Keith says, I see your pals being classed as Bruce Willis's double. It's hurting you as much as Penman being natural standing for Hasty. Toon tipster. Will you stop having fights in the timeline, guys? It's very unprofessional. Very unprofessional indeed. Okay, Wardo says, Holly, do you think Maximin will go in the summer?
If we're still in the same position, yes.
I just think he's putting himself in the shop window, and he's been great again. You know, the highlights I saw, he was really good again yesterday. Certainly, putting the ball through for Murphy, that in itself was a great ball, and should have won the game. Life Goal says, if Deontay beats Fury and AJ wins the rematch versus Usyk, oh man, where do we go from there? Yeah, I mean, then you've got the situation where Wilder and Fury drew the first fight. Fury will have won the second fight. Wilder will have won the third fight. That means there should be another fight because we still haven't got the definition of who that's where we're at with that. That could go on for another 2 years. That one. I can't see AJ beating Usyk. I think Usyk's too good for him. I'm afraid AJ's been shown for what he was. He was manufactured, AJ. Fury's a fighter. AJ's not. And I just can't. I don't know the way back for AJ now. Joe, here we go. More arguments. It was terrible management from the gaffer. That's me, I presume, and you know it. As for you looking like Bruce Willis, more chance this cat case winning. It's embarrassing, Holly, isn't it? These guys arguing, showing themselves up in the chat. What about starting Munoz versus Wolves?
No, honestly, I don't think we've ever spoke about that on the show, actually, because I'm pretty sure the week that we signed him, we had a break from doing the show. But I thought that was so embarrassing. Like, at first, I thought it was a joke. Then I went on the official club page, saw we'd signed him. But the club are at a point now where we're just signing players for the laughs when we're not actually signing players that we need to be signing. Signing a guy because of a movie that was out 15 years ago. I mean, come on. And he could be a decent player. I don't know much about him, but I don't think he's going to be coming in the first team.
Surely to God, we didn't sign him because of that.
We did.
Even Lee John.
Did you not even see the? Did you not even see the actor that played Santiago Munez came out and did that little video? I was so embarrassed. I was actually mortified.
Yeah, well, I don't think we'll see him, put it that way. J7's got it in his contract that he's got to play. Flat Racing says, I remember watching Steve Bruce play for Norwich, then Man U, and then again against Newcastle. He always tried harder when he played Newcastle, it seemed. I remember travelling to Norwich when he was playing. Yeah, again, it's always been strange. It's always been strange to see Steve Bruce, and he's never claimed to be a Newcastle United fan. I've got to be perfectly honest. He always says he's from the region, but I've never heard him say he's a Newcastle fan. Has God arrived in you? You've got like a...
I know, because I was like in the dark, so I just went to turn my light on.
It's divine intervention. It's like the light is shining down now. It looks like you're going to teleport away. Or it looks like there's like some kind of like holy intervention. And anyway, it looks good.
It's the brown ale god.
It's the brown ale god. Holly, I know Steve doesn't do financial. FPL, is it? What's FPL? But do you? And if so, how's your team doing? Oh, that must be one of these.
Fantasy Premier League.
Fantasy Premier League, yeah. Rondon's been a bust for me this weekend.
No, I don't do it because I'm really bad at it, to be honest with you. I'm not going to lie. Like, me score's always horrendous, so I gave up on it a few years ago.
John says it's Holy Blades now.
Good one,
John. See, that was my monk impression.
That should be the new intro music.
It should be. Anybody looking for a monk? I've obviously played a vicar before, as everybody knows, but I could easily do a monk as well. I'm quite vocal. Daniel Kane says, if we lose at Wolves, surely Bruce must be sacked or leave. That's what we're hoping for, I think, most people anyway. J7 is just another Albert Luque, says Tom. He didn't. He said Joe Linton, but it's J7, Tom. Bede says, Steve, is it right that they can still appeal if we get the go-ahead on Wednesday? Bede, Keith Patterson's your man for that, to be perfectly honest. Life Goals says, will you be doing a live stream of Cat on any channels if it goes ahead? We need your live input. We're doing a show at 6 o'clock. I don't think a live show is going to be... honestly, I just don't think it'll be worth doing a live show. But we'll do a show at 6 o'clock, which me and Keith, I think, will probably end up doing for a couple of hours because there'll be a lot of questions to be asked, I think. But 6 o'clock is the plan. Wednesday night Life Goals. That is the plan. Paul Kinson says, in my opinion, our left side seems much better with J7 and Richie.
Yeah, I think Joe Linton on the left, yeah, he does an all right job. Again, not my first choice, but yeah, I do agree to a certain extent, and I think Richie does play really well on that left side.
Yeah, okay. Belly says, no, and Ashley, St. Maximin will be sold in the January transfer window. That's if he's still the owner, of course. I suppose we could turn that into a positive spin. Tom says, is Matty Longstaff still getting games for Aberdeen? He should have been given a chance at Newcastle this season. I've got to be honest, I don't know whether he came on as a sub. He was on the bench again today, and Aberdeen got beat 3-2. I did have a look on there to see if he'd started, but didn't look like it. Definitely on the bench. Not sure if he got on. Derek Sharp, Keith and Joe, can you please get a hotel room? It's clearly you love each other.
So Joe's just being better because he's been turned down by Loaded.
I think so. Holly and Steve thinking positive. Which players will we keep when we were in the Championship next year? As I'm praying we will only get 15 points this season. What do you think about that? I mean, if we did go down, which players do you think would remain loyal?
I think it'd be the ones that's been here for a number of years. So probably Matt Ritchie, your likes of your John Joe Shelby's. I think Dubravka and Darlow would probably both stay. I think most of the defenders would stay. But I think the players that you'd be thinking would leave is obviously like your ASMs, your Wilsons, Almiron. I think they'll be off. But apart from that, I think most of the side played for us in the Championship. So I think all of those players would stay.
Derek says, I think Bruce is waiting for the sack. He wants the sack. Do you think so?
Well, yeah, of course he would, because one, it's going to be a lot less hassle for him because, he's not going to be getting grief every week for getting beat or not getting the points. And he's going to get a massive payoff. So what's not to be happy about from Steve Bruce's perspective? But also I know we're reaching the end of the show and I just wanted to give someone a shout out before the show ends. Harley, I know he watches the show every week. He's a massive fan of the show, and just I want to say thanks for watching the show. I know he travels home and away to most of the games, and if you're watching, just thanks for watching and I hope you've enjoyed it.
Beam me up time for Holly, says Donald. Yeah, it's like a transportation from Blake 7, isn't it? Joe says, can you tell this Doylem to leave me alone before I tell our mum? Yes, Keith, you've been told. Keith says, I wasn't that vocal when it was karaoke at your birthday. That's because I had to go. I was getting cajoled by Hasty and his missus. I had to leave and they were driving, so I couldn't say no. have WhatsApp J7 t-shirt if you can get it on. John, I haven't got time to do that today. I will look at it tomorrow though, mate. Don't worry. Brilliant show, Stephen Holly. Thank you very much. J7 is better than Fumaker, says Paul. Jacob says Steve Bruce is from Corbridge, so about 20 miles from Newcastle. He's a wannabe.
Oh, I think he's a wannabe Mancunian. That's what I think.
Tom says, Holly, what's your thoughts on standing at football games and also about the government getting rid of sponsors on football shirts? And that's a good question because we've seen that Newcastle didn't entertain the whole standing thing. What's your views on that? Would you have liked to have stood?
Yeah, definitely. If Newcastle gave me the option to stand or sit at games, I'd stand every time. It's an easy choice for me. And I'm disappointed that they didn't choose to do the trials for that. I read the little statement or whatever that they put out about it, which was basically saying they didn't want to cause disruption with the season ticket holders and stuff like that, which I can understand. I hope going into the new season they do bring it in, though, because I think the past few games have been all right, to be fair, but certainly for a few years now, the atmosphere at St James's Park is just dead, and I think bringing Stanton in would give it a bit of a lift, so I think it could only be a good thing. The sponsors, as far as I'm aware, it's only betting sponsors that they're getting rid of, which is probably a good thing. I know we have Fun 88, which is a betting sponsor, but again, it's promoting something which is not the most healthy thing. It can be an addiction and a habit for a lot of people, so it is probably a good thing that we're getting rid of that. Of course, if that does happen, then Newcastle's going to have to go ahead and find a new sponsor, which I'm assuming they won't be very happy about, but it's just one of them things.
That's true, as usual. Bruce out, he says, which is always very funny. I was only joking, John. You know me. J7 t-shirts, aren't they a beauty? John, get them on the website, NUFCmatters.com. J7 t-shirts on sale now. I think that's great. It's a master stroke. Black and white only, because he's black and white through and through. J7. Let's get them circulated. If you haven't got one, get one ordered, and we'll make a donation to the food bank off those t-shirts, I think, as well, John. So I'll leave that to you to get them priced. Kenny says, I've missed so much. I've been away all weekend. Twitter's a different world again. Where did J7 come from? There's somebody in the chat today.
Yeah, well, it was J9, wasn't it? I think Steve Bruce may have referred to him as J9 before, or I don't know, but I know J9 went about, and now obviously with his shirt number, now it's J9, which, doesn't have the same ring as CR7, but he's the best we're going to get.
Yeah, Matty Longstaff can't get up the bench for Aberdeen. He's almost 22. It's not a good sign. He could be the next Adam Campbell. How about playing Richie in a central role alongside Hayden, says Donald Baines. I've said this before, but... Longstaff's doing okay now. I don't think that'll happen.
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen either. It is a good shout, but I think Richie's happy where he is.
Joe says, don't you start, Holly. Have you been on the lash again?
Well, it's all them unopened bottles of brown ale that I've had in front of us lately. It's just getting in my head. Martin
Heron says, Bruce waiting for his 4 million, then he can go back to Manchester. Which, yeah, lots of people do feel that way. Dubravka. Darlo Dubravka, no, Dubravklo. A Darlo Dubravka mashup would be ideal. Darlo's reflexes and Dub's present. Yeah, I often say that you wish you could combine. You wish you could combine players, couldn't you?
Yeah, definitely. I'd certainly go for Darlow's kicking as well.
Yeah, no, he has got the best kicking of the two. Yeah, we've done that one. What's your thoughts on the standing? Okay, well, we've got another game coming up. Wolves away. We will both be at that game. How do you see that going, Holly?
Defeat, if I'm being honest.
No.
I'm sorry, not the most positive thing. Honestly, if we'd have won yesterday, I was literally going to text you and be like, we're not going to any more games this season because we're clearly the bad luck charms because it was the first game that we both hadn't been at. But unfortunately for us, we're going to have to go because we didn't end up winning. But yeah, I think we're going to get beat, to be honest. I think Wolves is a good side. Of course, they'll have some confidence. They've done well in their last game. I don't think we're going to get thrashed. I don't think it's going to be like a 3-0, but I think it's going to be 2-1 to Wolves, if I was to guess.
Yeah. Stephen Ollie, please stop this domestic argument between Toons Tipster and Newcastle NCSL. Yeah, I mean, lads, I've told you, stop it. It's getting beyond a joke now. Nailed on draw, 1-1, says Paul. Don't forget, J7 t-shirts available, NUFCmatters.com. Get yourself on there. Buy one this week, and let's give the lads some support. We will be back. Well, we won't be back, but Pete and Chris will be back tomorrow night, 7:30. on NUFC Matters with a 5-minute rant, your chance to get yourself on screen and to talk about things all Newcastle United. From me and Holly, it's good night. See you later, Holly.
Night, take care.